The first 3 drives of the second half, they went 3 and out 3 straight times for a total of -2 yards. In those 3 drives, they threw the ball 8 out of 9 times. They ran the ball to McCaffrey once. That is wild to me. That was a massive, massive mistake, and I don't understand why Shanahan can't get out of his own way. That's the best woman I've ever seen play basketball my entire life, and I don't think I'll ever see another woman that good ever. And I've watched a lot of her games since, and I mean, the shot making is just, it's Steph Curry-esque. You can hate on that all you want, but that's the reality of it. The only reason I would have kicked it, is just you hadn't scored. Like, you hadn't scored. You had no, what did San Francisco put up? 27 unanswered? You never stemmed the bleeding. And it wasn't like their offense at that point was humming. Like, they were making mistakes left and right. To me, you kick the field goal, you tie the game, you put the pressure then on Brock Purdy. It's a whole different drive when you're tied versus up 3 there. Why in the world is Bradley Chubb in the game at that point? There was 3 minutes to go in the game. You are down by 37 points. 37. And you have your starters in the game when you know that in this game that's a loss. You're now playing for the division next week. You've had injuries all year. Guys are going down like flies left and right. The game has been over for a full quarter. Why do you have your guys out there? It wasn't just Bradley Chubb. He had his whole starting unit out there. And I don't want to get too far into analytics here, but if you look at McCaffrey's numbers, right, they don't look that great in terms of on the ground. He averaged 3.5 yards per carry. But this is crazy. So McCaffrey, on his 21 qualifying runs, 14 of them were graded as successful. Successful means 4 yards or more on first down, half of the remaining yards on second down, and getting a first down on third down. 67% of his runs graded as successful. The reason I like that is because, like, if he runs the ball for 1 yard on 3rd and 1, that's a good play, but it doesn't take that into account in yards per rush. Yeah. So on running back carries, they, as a team, 71% success rate, and yet they threw the ball 39 times and ran it 31. I thought that was a massive mistake, and I thought it started with the second half. 9 of their first 10 plays in the second half were throws, and Purdy in that stretch incompleted 5 straight. And that was the time San Francisco had to take control of the game. He changed his whole schedule so that he could be in every defensive meeting because he doesn't trust the guy. I don't even know if he'll be there next year, even if they win a Super Bowl. The defense has dropped off tremendously. I mean, it's nothing like a Niners defense that you'd expect. They had 3 straight opportunities to go take a stranglehold on the game and take a 2-possession lead, and they could not do it. It's because Kyle Shanahan put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands and not Christian McCaffrey. That's what I think is a huge, huge mistake by Shanahan. Yeah, teams ranked in the top 10 playing on the road against unranked teams. In the past, 73% the last 10 years. 43% win percentage this year on the road. It's been absolutely wild. There's been upsets every single weekend. We saw a number of upsets on Saturday. Number 6 Tennessee loses at A&M by double digits. Auburn, number 12, fresh off of a domination of their rival Alabama at home. They've looked really good in the SEC. They get beat by 25+ against unranked Florida. Number 10 Illinois loses at unranked Michigan State by 7. Number 11, Wisconsin loses their 4th straight, this one at Rutgers. But with the Cowboys beating the Lions and now having that tiebreaker over the Lions for that 3 seed, and the Cowboys winning their game now because Philadelphia lost to an NFC opponent and Dallas's last loss was to Miami, an AFC opponent, Dallas jumps Philly in the tiebreaker. If both teams win this final week, or if both teams lose this final week, Dallas will win the NFC East. Assuming Dallas wins, Dallas is a situation where if they win, not only are they the NFC East champs, they are the number 2 overall seed, and they will now host at least 1. If they win, they will host 2 playoff games. We would be worse next year, but in the long run, we're going to be better because, obviously you have a guy who's going to be your 3rd-year starter who's played in won a Big 12 championship, played in a college football playoff. He's probably going to be better than Arch Manning. But to me, you start him, hopefully Quinn leaves. Arch gets to have 1 year of development. And by his 2nd year, now we're a contender again. And then you never know. This is a different era. And I understand we've talked about how Arch has come from, a much lower level of competition. But this is a different era where it's not unrealistic that a freshman could come in, really do a good job, and especially now with the 12-team playoff, be in that playoff at the end of the year. We've seen a lot of public support for Alabama, and I think the narrative is what drives that, which is it's Nick Saban, it's extra prep time, right? It's Alabama, who's been here before. Michigan, on the other hand, has been in this game 2 years in a row. They looked horrible. They were crushed the first year. Last year, you could argue they probably overlooked TCU because, it looked once Michigan got going offensively like they kind of did whatever they wanted, but defensively they couldn't get a stop against that TCU team who really wasn't that great. JB touched on this too. Lamar has to be able to throw the ball on time in the playoffs. Quarterbacks have to be able to do that to win games in the playoffs. He doesn't do that in big moments, and he never has. I want to see him do it before I'm a believer. Everybody's high on the Packers now because they beat the Cowboys. I really do think it had to do with Mike McCarthy and Dak. Brock Purdy in that offense with him, we've only seen him ever struggle one time, right? And it was against Baltimore on Christmas Eve or Christmas, right? Besides that, he really has never done that. I don't think there's a path, unless Brock Purdy just does that, where the Packers win this game. Like, I think he's got to turn the ball over 3 times for them to lose.